It's the Brad and John Show.
It is the Brad and John Show. Today's date is April 21st. This is the B block, which means we do it right around 7:20 or so. As a matter of fact, I should throw in the date, the year as well, too, April 21st, 2025. John, top news story, you can't get away from it. The Pope has died, which is very sad. A lot of people are very happy with the current Pope, or I guess he's not the current Pope anymore, the former Pope now, because he was more progressive. And you and I being North County guys, I used to have arguments with some of my Catholic friends back in the day. They were not heated arguments, but I would say to them, how is it that the Catholic Church has a pope when one of the Ten Commandments says, thou shalt not worship false gods? Get what I'm saying?
I get exactly what you're saying, but isn't the Pope God's representative, God's representative in the Catholic faith on earth, right? He's the conduit, correct?
Yeah, but to me, maybe
that's still a false idol in your idea, because you're elevating him above others.
Yes, and
I get what you're saying. Yeah, you're deifying him, in other words.
Right, and to the point, kiss the ring and all that kind of stuff. I don't know. I mean, I'm not trying to offend Catholic listeners this morning. It's just always been an issue I've had because of the fact that, to me, the person that you're really supposed to worship is the dude upstairs. You know what I'm saying? Not the guy here on earth. I get
exactly what you're saying. I mean, my big opposition to it is that you can't spell deify without DEI.
Here we go. Okay. More stuff over the weekend about the man from Maryland. So all the news reports. A man from Maryland who's
he's a father, isn't he, Brad?
Right. He's a great, wonderful, wonderful guy. And all this stuff keeps coming out. And now, John, I'm going to ask you this. This is an open-ended question. But did the Democrats fall into this trap laid by the Republicans that they're going all in on this dude, who is the Maryland man, and then the Republicans are saying, yeah, he's such a great guy. Look at all these police reports. Look at the fact that he beat his wife up, and look at this.
Allegedly beat it. She got a restraining order at least, right?
Well, yeah, but then she wouldn't press charges, which if you know anything about spousal abuse, that's the classic scenario that the woman, and I'm not saying I think it's wrong. The woman gets beat up. She goes and presses a report, goes and does a report with the police. And then one thing leads to another, whether there's coercion on her husband's part or boyfriend, whatever it is. And then she decides, I'm not going to press charges.
I know. And Brad, folks who meet you think that you just have a regular wonky eye. But it's actually decades of a stiletto being jabbed in there, and you refuse to press charges.
John.
And then you made up a story about LASIK, the cover.
You're not
I think that's romantic of you.
You're not supposed to tell that story.
Well, I know. So back to the Maryland father, Brad. I did see a clip over the weekend where someone asked is it his ex-wife or his wife?
Well, see, that's the other interesting thing. Some people say they're not actually married. Some people say they're divorced. It's like, can we get the straight story about any of this stuff?
No, we can't. I think the media doesn't want us to have the straight story. But I guess someone asked her what they asked her about the restraining order, the abuse or whatever. And she said she refused to answer in the clip I saw. And she's like, well, he's alive today, and that's all that matters.
That was the Michael Strahan interview on CBS Morning News, and then
is that what it was?
Yes, and then he pussyfoots it around and say, well, in other words, he's not going to ask the follow-up question. That follow-up question was, okay, did he or did he not abuse you? And, and then if she gives another, evasive answer, the answer. You know what I mean? I mean, like, one time, people go, I don't know. Second time, it's pretty much, we know what's going on here. You know what I'm saying? It's one of those things. So, the crazy thing about this is that, and if you go to the root cause of this comes down to the fact that these people should have never gotten into the country to begin with. Let's just be honest about that. That's the whole problem. And you look back, and I know there's going to be people go, oh, Brad, here goes again. He's Democrat bashing. But how in the world, if you go back and you play the interviews or the video of Mayorkas when he is in front of the congressional committees and they're asking him questions about the border. And what's his answer, John? What was his answer all the time?
That it's first of all, that he's got a lot of appointments, right? What was his answer?
The border
There's not a problem.
The border is secure.
The border is secure. Yeah, and pardon me for interrupting, Brad, but I was looking up this piece when you asked that question. Ann Wagner's point in the Washington Missourian piece is she says, quote, this time last year there were 4,400, she's talking about illegal aliens, 4,400 a day coming over that southern border. Today there's around 200. So our relationship with Mexico, at least in this thing, quote, has been good. So we go from 4,400 a day down to 200 a day. So to answer your question, Brad, how did it happen? Well, when you got 4,400 coming in through the Mexican border alone, these people are going to get in.
You know, people talk about this like, oh, those poor people, they need some place to go. Think about all the countries in the world. Remember, there's been stories of people that have and there's a certain mountain range or something. I don't know my geography that well, but there's been cases of this. There's a certain mountain range where people go hiking in one country and they stray into China and they are grabbed by the Chinese authorities and thrown in jail. And we have to have diplomatic, all sorts of negotiations to get these people back. Why aren't we like that? Why? In most countries, the most important thing is the security of their borders. And we no big deal. No big deal. Come on, just come on in. I don't get it. I don't never understand that. Never.
Well, yeah, and I think, too, that, if you look at in Missouri what some of the counties have done, if you look at what Franklin County has done to keep people from just riding in the Miss Augusta and invading the county, they've done a pretty good job defending their border, wouldn't you say?
Miss Augusta is actually anchored in St. Charles County, John. So
yeah, that's what I mean. So you don't want them to come in to Franklin County, right? You don't want those dirty people from St. Charles County to invade Franklin County.
I guess. Okay. Over the weekend, I have personal history with the Murrah Federal Building in Oklahoma City. I won't give you all the crazy details, but I was there years ago. Mistakenly, I was in the wrong building, okay? And I have seen the memorial, and if you know the deal, this was the weekend, the 30th anniversary of the bombing of the Murrah Federal Building in Oklahoma City. I have a friend that lives in Oklahoma City and involved with government there, knows the mayor personally. The mayor of Oklahoma City, I say, should be the next star in politics. This guy is so good.
Did he do anything over the weekend to talk about what happened?
Oh, yeah, they had a big deal with Bill Clinton was there. And Bill Clinton, as a matter of fact, this happened during the Clinton administration, and they had all sorts of different...
I'm sorry to interrupt. I saw his comments, but I didn't know that the mayor made comments there. Or if he did, I didn't see them. No.
Well, this was sent to me by my friend in Oklahoma City. And if you want, I'll send you the video. It's a video of the mayor of Oklahoma City with his two kids, who he does an intro to the video, talks about the bombing of the Murrah building, blah, 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 blah. And then he walks out of frame, and the video starts off with, they look like they're in a classroom, and he's in the middle, and there's two kids. And at that point in time, you don't know who the kids are. It's a boy and a girl. There's a boy to his left. There's a girl to his right. And he gives a little intro, and then he walks out of the frame and essentially says, this is my son and daughter. And he talks about the fact that when he was in high school when this happened. So that gives you sometimes you think about that.
Yeah, I was too. I was a junior in high school.
You think holy cow. And he walks out of the frame, and his two kids essentially do the rest of the video. It is so good. And they show,
nice.
And they interview all these people, quite a few of them who were first responders and things like that. Very touching. And just one of those things. And I know there are going to be people who are going to say, and I already heard it over the weekend. Well, that Timothy McVeigh, he was a right winger, and that's what's wrong with our government. Look what we got. We got all these right wingers. Look, they're going to blow things up. And I'm thinking to myself, we've talked about this before. You have people who are, left, and you have people who are right. Some people are way over right, and some people are way over left, and they're not representative of the entire movement, so to speak. And I think it's sad that people, and there has been some of this over the weekend. I looked at some news stories and things like that. There was some limited hijacking that I saw of this thing that say these guys were Timothy McVeigh. He was an army person. He was an ex-army, and look what he did. I get it. I mean, let's just say he was a nutbag. And that should suffice as far as I'm concerned. Because if he would have been a left-leaning nutbag, I still would have said he's a nutbag. You know what I'm saying?
Or if he was a left-leaning nutbag who attempted to assassinate the president in Pennsylvania, we'd pretty much end up hearing nothing more about him, would we?
And that is so interesting because that...
Why don't we hear anything about that guy or his influence?
That is so bizarre. You bring that up. We know everything in the world about... Remember the gal... You're probably too young for this. The gal who tried to assassinate... President Ford, remember that?
Oh, Squeaky Fromme,
yes,
right?
Squeaky Fromme. We knew everything about her, who her friends were, and who she associated with, and where she went to school, and her parents, and where she lived, and where she went to high school.
And her favorite Beatles song, which was, of course, Helter Skelter.
Right. We don't know anything about this guy in Pennsylvania, which is just sort of weird. That's neither here nor there. Okay, moving on to one more thing here, which I thought was interesting on my list of stuff to talk about this morning. Okay, I'll send that link
Did you know how Squeaky Fromme got her name, Brad?
I don't remember. Go ahead and tell me.
Tex Watson, who was a key member of the Manson family, I believe it was Tex Watson. No, hold on. I got that wrong. I think his name was Charles Spahn, the guy that owned the Spahn Ranch. We know it was not Warren Spahn, the Hall of Fame pitcher. But I think the old guy that owned the Spahn Ranch would grab her leg and squeeze her leg, and she would always make a squeaky sound. So I think his name was Charles. Charles Spahn, or whoever the Spahn guy was, called Fromme Squeaky, and that's how she got the name Squeaky Fromme.
I know you're going to make fun of me when I ask this question, but have you seen that movie, one with Brad Pitt? What is it, Life in L.A.? Or what was the name of that movie where it was like he is involved with the people at the Manson Ranch, or the Spahn Ranch. No,
I haven't seen that. No.
Okay, I was just curious about that because when I'm watching shorts on YouTube, there's a bunch of scenes that keeps coming up in there where he talks about Tex and Squeaky and stuff like that. Okay.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah,
was it a recent movie?
Oh, yeah. It's within the last 5 years or something like that.
Oh, wow. Okay, no, I haven't seen it.
He plays. Somebody's going to know the answer and text it to me. 314-280-8880 is my text number. That's my cell phone number as well, too. He plays a stunt man, and this was like a big blockbuster thing where he's and they supposedly this is like fictionalized, but there's some truth to it, that they show up at his house and they try to kill him, and he went to the Spahn Ranch and he talked to the people there, and I can't remember the whole story why he was there, but it's a fairly recent movie with Brad Pitt. I'm pretty sure, I know for sure within the last 10 years, I want to say within the last 5 years, and it has something to do with like Life in L.A. or something like that. I'll look
Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
There you go. That's it. What's the date? Do you have the date when that movie came out?
Google says it is 2019.
So I was close. It's 6 years old.
Yeah.
Okay, and like I said, if you watch anything on YouTube Shorts, you see these scenes come up all the time where he's at the Spahn Ranch and he's at his house when they try to come and kill him and blah, 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 stuff like that. Okay, David Hogg, in the news quite a bit this weekend. What's your impression of this guy? What do you think? What do you think he's really up to?
Well, we know that he has been using the DNC list to raise money for himself, right?
Right.
And so I would guess that just from afar, I would guess that he wants to run for something or have a post in the next Democratic presidential administration. And I do think, and this is where you and I might disagree here, Brad, I do think that he represents the activist base of the current Democratic Party very well. And that doesn't mean the average Democrat voter, particularly the average Democrat voter in Missouri. But I think if you're the type of person who's chronically online and you hate Republicans and you hate guns and you hate Donald Trump, David Hogg's your kind of guy, and you're happy that he has a post of responsibility.
The story was, I'll read you the first paragraph. Democratic National Committee, DNC, Vice Chair David Hogg recently gave $100,000 to the Democrat Congressional Campaign Committee, the DCCC, shortly after his plans to shake up the Democratic Party with new leadership angered party insiders. The news, which was first reported by Politico and Axios, was confirmed by Hogg in an X post on Friday where he asserted that he wasn't playing nice by handing the six-figure donation over to DCC. He says, "This is not me playing nice. It is demonstrating my commitment to winning back the House and making Hakeem Jeffries the Speaker, which is an absolute imperative." He says, "But we need a better Democratic Party, and we need to get rid of the Democrats in safe seats who do not understand what is at stake right now, who are asleep at the wheel, not meeting the moment, and are the liability now and to the future of our party." So he's essentially saying, we not only do we need new blood, we need more Democrats elected to the House. We need some of these wimpy Democrats, or whatever he called them, to be kicked out. And, on one hand, think to myself, the guy's 25. I don't know. See, I'm the guy that has always said things like this. I'm an ageist because they say, he's just 18. Well, we won World War II with a bunch of just 18-year-olds. You know what I'm saying?
You're right. You're dang right we did.
We won World War II with a bunch of 18, 19, 20, 21. You read some of the stories of these battles in World War II and some of the aviation stories. You had pilots who were 21 and 22, co-pilots who were 18, 19, 20 years old. Okay. And it was interesting. Over the weekend, there's a show on the Patriot 104.9. There's a guy, and I know people are going to say, "Oh, Brad, this is weird." I'm gonna tease this. We're going to talk about this in C Block. About the show is called Gun Talk, and the guy's name is Tom Grisham, and he's been doing this show for 30 years, and he's really good at it. He's not some radical kind of guy. If anything, he's a gun enthusiast, and he loves going to the range, and he's not like hardcore. But a couple things came up in that which was really interesting. And there's some cases pending in the Supreme Court, which he had a guest on, and it made absolute, positive, total sense of what they're talking about. And we don't have too much time in this, so let's start off with C Block, and I'll talk about this interesting thing with age. It has to do with handguns. And I thought this was a fascinating perspective, once again, on this age thing. And I am trying to bring it full circle because I always find it sad that if you're a guy that graduates from college, let's say you graduate from high school at 18 and you go to college for 4 years and you get a job and you're 22 and you get a job for a company and they want you to travel around the country, you can't rent a car because the rental car companies won't rent until you're 25. And I'm going like, okay, now hold on a minute now. How are they able to do that? How that would almost be like saying, if you're Greek, you can't rent a car because Greek people are crazy drivers. Or if you're Italian, we know those Italian people are all crazy drivers. If you're Greek or Italian, you can't rent a car. And people go, well, you can't do that. But if you're 24, you can't rent a car. Anyway, we'll talk about that next.
Yeah, but isn't that what Cottlesville is doing with golf carts, Brad? If you're under 60, you don't get to putz around?
Under 60 or under 16, did you say?
No, it's 6-0.
6-0.
Like, you don't get to putz around. You can't try to make a left on Highway N at rush hour unless you're 60, right?
I know you're not a Facebook guy, so I will send you a picture I took last week when I was in Cottleville, which you may find funny. I'll send that to you during the break, okay?